Let us not forget everything that happens. It's by the will of Allah. Holy will. It's time to unite and stand, and we will be the best amongst men. It's not time to be extreme or duty unthinkable, but to stand together as one. Tune into Sunnah followers, streaming every day, various platforms. Trust me, you'll find a way. Sunnah followers, you will make it through. The fitrah is awake in you. With Quran and Sunnah by your side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through. You will make it through. The fitrah is awake in you. With Quran and Sunnah on his side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through. With Quran and Sunnah on his side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through.
I'm sorry. Inna alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. I want to welcome everybody to our first class of today, which is our Aqidah class. And mashallah, this chapter of the book that we've been studying from, this is the book entitled Diluting Wal Bara. This was one of my favorite chapters of the book so far. This was chapter 3. And we'll be completing this chapter today. And at the end of this chapter, after I finish completing the lecture, I'm going to give you guys a quiz. But the quiz I'm going to give you today is very provocative because it's going to require you to think. Because this chapter focused on how to establish wal bara within our Muslim communities. As we've discussed, we can live anywhere on this earth as long as we're allowed to practice our religion openly. And when it comes to living in a non-Islamic state, we have to establish our own Muslim state from within. What does that mean? That means we establish our own Muslim communities. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said that whenever 2 or more Muslims come together, because they live in the same town, they live in the same village or whatnot, they have to establish congregational prayer. Okay? You have to turn that barn into a place of worship where we can come together to pray. And then that barn becomes the meeting place where the Muslims come together to remind each other as to what our purposes are in life, to encourage each other as to how to achieve the ultimate goal that we're all striving for, which is paradise. So it's all about coming together within a non-Muslim society, coming together as Muslims and establishing our own Muslim state from within. And this is what a lot of the fanatical Muslim men to this day don't understand. There's a lot of fanatical Muslim men out there. They think that it's all about establishing a Muslim state. They'll tell you, oh, it's our job as Muslims to go throughout the earth, even though we live in a non-Islamic country, even though we live in a non-Islamic land, we're supposed to try to establish an Islamic state. This is ignorance. No, we don't do that. We establish a Muslim state within. We establish Muslim communities within the same way the companions did. When the companions left Mecca because they were unable to practice their religion freely there. And by the way, that's where those hadiths come from. This is another question that one of the new brothers here asked me. He said, Sister Laila, I was listening to some lectures on YouTube from other people, and they were saying that it's haram to live in a non-Muslim country. They gave the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, don't put your fires near the fires of the unbelievers. And also a couple of other hadiths where the Prophet said it's forbidden for us to live here. I said, this is what happens when we teach ourselves the religion. We're supposed to seek knowledge of Islam from the bona fide, qualified scholars of Islam. And there is no way that you can view yourself as being a person who's on a level of a scholar if you don't know, number one, the meaning of the Quran. And you will never learn the meaning of the Quran until you learn, number two, the hadiths. And when you learn the hadiths, it gives you a sense of Islam. Those hadiths, and they are authentic. They're in Bukhari, they're in Muslim, some of them are in Tirmidhi, a few of them are even in Muwatta. Those hadiths are all authentic. But you have to know the history. Those are things that the Prophet Muhammad said when the Muslims were living in Mecca and they were not able to practice their deen. So now, are we going to say that it's haram to live in Mecca? Because those hadiths were about the city of Mecca at that time. That's when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions were forced to relocate to Medina. Because they were persecuted for practicing Islam, they had to sneak and do it in Mecca. And that's when the Prophet made that statement. We can no longer live in this land. This is a non-believing land that's not allowing us to practice. Mecca is not a kafir land anymore. Okay? And the hadith about don't light your fires near the kafir, that was when they were migrating. It took 2 weeks. Back in those days, they didn't have cars. They didn't have airplanes. One of the questions that some of you asked me before was, Sister Laila, how long did it take the companions to migrate from Mecca to Medina on camel? Back in those days, it took the least amount of time was 14 days. And that's from the hadith of one of the companions. One of the companions said the least amount of time it would take for us to leave from Mecca, to travel from Mecca to Medina was 14 days. That's in the event that there were no sandstorms or any of that. Okay? So as the Prophet and when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded the companions to leave Mecca and go to Medina, he told them, make sure that you get as far away from Mecca as you can. Do not allow your fires to burn anywhere near the unbelievers. So you have to know the story, guys. Those hadiths are the things the Prophet Muhammad said, but something happened to make him say them. So this is why I tell you all, be very, very careful. Be very, very careful on this internet listening to these women and men talk about Islam. Because 97%, and I repeat, 97% of the people who are on the internet today speaking about Islam don't know what they're talking about. They are of the Ruwaybidah. The people who have a lot to say to make money off of you for your hits, they got a lot to say about Islam, a lot to say about what's going on in the world, but they don't even know the basics. They can't tell you what the pillars of the prayer are. They can't tell you what the pillars of wudu are. They don't know the pillars of the shahada. They don't even know the pillars of marriage. They don't know the conditions of marriage, but they got all this talk about this deen. So be careful, brothers and sisters, of who you're taking your knowledge from. You need to find a bona fide, qualified teacher and stick with that one teacher until you die, like the companions did. And make sure that that teacher lives as long as Allah can have it live. Because when the true people of knowledge die, we take, and I say we take our knowledge with us. And you're left with uneducated people pretending to be people of knowledge when they're not. All right? So we can live anywhere on this earth as long as we are able to practice our religion openly without hiding. We are not. There is no verse in the Quran, nor is there any hadith, whereas our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam commands us that wherever we live to try to turn it into an Islamic state. The companions lived in Abyssinia. Abyssinian was a Christian country like America, like UK. That was their religion. None of the companions were in Abyssinia trying to establish an Islamic state. No, we don't establish an Islamic state. But what we do establish is a Muslim state within. And how do we go about doing that? By coming together as Muslims in our cities, in our villages, in our towns. The first thing we do is build a mosque or put a place of worship together. And then we all congregate there for the prayers, for the 5 prayers. We congregate there on Fridays and do the Jummah together. And then we come together there, for other events so that we can help to keep the fitra within our hearts ignited. Does everybody understand that? And I hope I broke that down for some of you young brothers. So no Islamic state. You establish a Muslim state from within. Y'all got it? All right. So we're going to continue and close out this chapter, because that's what this chapter was all about, how to go about establishing a Muslim state within, how to go about establishing brotherhood and sisterhood within that state, how to live by the laws of Islam, the guidance of Islam, the rules of Islam, in peace with the people around you who are not Muslim, and also at peace with each other. That's what this chapter was all about. And we're going to close it out. Let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen. And again, I want you guys to take notes and pay attention, because there will be a provocative quiz tonight after this to see just how well you guys understood this information. So let me take everything down for right now. Hold on. So yeah, I am. The sisters say, Layla, we want to screen. Yeah, you can screenshot. Yeah, I'm taking all this down. So inshallah, you'll be able to screenshot. So let me start with the Zoom room. Okay, hold on. And the rest of you guys just, let me put this up so you don't see a black screen. Yeah, just bear with us. Okay, let me go to Zoom first. Oh, my PowerPoint. Hold on. Y'all know Layla's crazy. Yeah, I got to put my PowerPoint up. Oh, yeah, I try. Y'all know I'm trying to be better. Okay, and now let me share to the people on YouTube. Practical approaches. Okay, here it is. And this is, let me show. I'll show it to you now. The sister's asking what pages again. Oh, let me show it. Let me take this down too. Hold on. How do I do that? I can click on this one, right? Yeah, and hide. There it is. Did it come down? Oh, there it is. Okay, y'all look at the screen. Uh-oh. I'm trying to see if I can get it bigger, the blue image. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Inshallah, I'm gonna make it one. Okay, there. Okay, this is, I didn't put the ending. This is pages 175 through 177 of the book. Pages 175 through 177. You can turn to the page 175 and follow along with the PowerPoint if you want, or just watch the PowerPoint. Okay? And for those of you who have not yet purchased the book, this is the book. The right is volume 3 of the right belief system that's put together by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd. May Allah bless him and forgive him of his sins. Ameen. And may Allah keep him living long so he can continue to put out good books like this. Okay? Because inshallah, I'll be teaching all his books here. Alhamdulillah. His books are part of the curriculum. Just so you guys know, Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd's books, Aqidah books, are part of the curriculum here at Sunnah Followers. And also, he's got a great book on the prayer. I'm going to be teaching that too. All of his books are part of our curriculum, as are all of Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atli's books too. So may Allah keep them both living so we can continue with their work. Okay, so today we're going to start at page 175, and we're going to talk about practical approaches for conflict resolution. Because whenever two or more people come together, as you all know, there's going to be differences of opinion. That's just how we are. We're human beings. Whenever two or more people come together, we're not going to agree on everything. Well, but as Muslims, there's guidelines that Allah put in place for us through the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that will help us to navigate through our differences and still maintain that allegiance with each other. And of course, those practical strategies for resolving conflicts are based on Wal Bara. Wala meaning our allegiance to each other, and Bara is to distance ourselves from whatever opposes what Allah commands us to do or say. And when we implement these strategies, we have to implement them with wisdom, patience, and commitment. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these strategies we can use. Number one, you're in your Islamic community. Whenever people have differences, and this is why I'm always emphasizing this with my students, we have to be able to communicate well with each other. You have to have effective communication. And we have to be people who listen more and speak less. That's why I'm always writing you guys, asking you guys to explain your answers better. You have to be able to communicate your thoughts, communicate your desires, communicate your wants, your needs, your opinions effectively. Communication lies at the heart of conflict resolution. It entails expressing yourself clearly, honestly, and respectfully while listening attentively to the other people's ideas around you too. And through active listening, You can better understand whatever the issue is, whatever the emotions involved are. And in turn, this can steer you in the right direction of empathy. And in turn, it will cause you to be able to promote mutual understanding with yourself and whoever the other person is. So again, guys, whenever we come together as a community, we have to make sure that our communication skills are in tune. And also, we have to listen well. Train yourself to listen to what other people are saying. Listen to the words closely, and then be cautious of the words you choose to use too. And even then, guys, even if we do use effective communication, and even if we do listen attentively to each other, that still is no guarantee that whatever the conflict is will be resolved. So oftentimes as Muslims, we may have to bring in a third party to mediate for us. And this is something that Allah speaks about in the Quran. For example, even in marriages, Allah tells us that if ever the husband and wife have a disagreement, Allah says, bring in a third party. Get someone from your family and get someone from his family. And then you sit down with them and tell them what the issue is, and they can help resolve it because, you know, they're not deeply invested in the problem. So even in marriage, you know, we have to sometimes seek mediation or counsel. How many of us do that? Many of you are born Muslim. That means you have Muslim families. You don't have to jump up and run to the imam because there's a problem with you and your husband. That's for women that don't have a family. That's for men who don't have Muslim families. You sisters and brothers were born Muslim. Instead of running to the imam, and by the way, the imam is nobody. He's just a person that leads you in prayer. The imam doesn't have that closeness to you. He doesn't know you. Why don't you guys start resolving your problems the way Allah says? You get your father, and then you have your husband bring his, and y'all sit down together and try to work it out with the fathers involved, or the mothers involved, or your sister involved, and his brother involved. Running to the imam is for those sisters who don't have Muslim relatives, or those brothers who have no Muslim relatives. Y'all see what I'm saying here? So, seeking the assistance of a neutral third party or qualified mediator can be very beneficial because mediation creates a safe and structured environment for us to sit down and talk openly and try to resolve whatever the problem is. It also allows for impartial guidance. It also brings about better communication between the parties involved. So again, this is something that Allah commands us to do in the Quran, and it's also something that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. So if there's problems within a community, two people, there's another verse in the Quran. Allah says when two factions of the Muslims, you know, are at conflict, you sit down with them together and work it out with them. This is what we should do in our Islamic communities. You go to the mosque and you walk in on two sisters arguing about something, okay? You should try to get between them and try to say, hey, sisters, we're sisters in faith. Perhaps I can help work it out. I'm impartial. Perhaps I can help you or be of assistance to you. So mediation or counsel, always helps us to resolve conflicts from within, in addition to having good communication skills and listening. And also, guys, I cannot stress enough the importance of empathizing with your fellow Muslim brothers and sisters. Like I said yesterday, we have to stop feeling sorry for ourselves and stop feeling sorry for other people, and instead learn to empathize, because empathy leads to understanding. And these two ingredients are essential in resolving conflicts. Because if you empathize, you won't get personal. You won't allow your personal likes and your personal dislikes to interfere. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different experiences. We're from different countries. We're from different races. And emotions, can bridge gaps. Okay? But if we empathize with each other, we can work it out. We'll put aside the fact that sister is from a different country. She's a human being with feelings just like me. How would I like it if I was married and I was going through the problems that she's going through? So by empathizing, we learn to understand one another. And once we understand one another, then we can help each other and move forward. And also, to help us do this in our Muslim communities, we have to keep ourselves centered on the reality that what brings us together is La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. And because of that, we have the same goal, which is paradise. And there's also other common goals we may have. There's other values we may have, especially living in a non-Islamic state. We want to raise our children. We want our children to get a good secular education. But we also want them to maintain their deen. So this is a common goal, a common value. By identifying the shared goals and values, that can shift the focus from the conflict to other areas that we can agree upon. And once we highlight the common ground, then we can come together and find solutions that uphold our principles and shared values. And this is what leads to unity. This is what leads to cooperation. This is what leads to respect and understanding. So, mashallah, I really like how Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd put this in this chapter. And you can see that he's speaking from experience as an imam, as a person has a large community, how to keep that community focused and how to keep that community united. Okay? And also, something else that we need to do when we come together within our communities, we have to practice more patience with each other, more forgiveness with each other. Something that I see as a daya. It behooves me when I look on the internet and see these Muslim brothers showing all the patience in the world with kafirs. With they're debating the religion with Christians and non-believers who don't have no interest in Islam, really. They're just on there to debate with you because they're trying to give you dawah. But these brothers have so much patience and forgiveness towards them. But they have no patience with their own brethren. They'll call a person, another Muslim, a kafir in a heartbeat. They'll hold grudges against other Muslims forever. This is not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be patient and forgiving with the believers. And we're supposed to be harsh and stern with the non-believers. That's another one of the signs of the last hour. We got things twisted as Muslims. All that patience and forgiveness that these men have for these non-Muslims, it's not supposed to be that way. They're supposed to deal with them harshly. They're supposed to be stern with them. But they're not. Instead, they're turning it on us. By practicing forgiveness, this is how we move forward. If we don't go around holding grudges against each other, this is how we can restore trust and build our relationships. And we need patience in everything. Without patience, nothing will ever succeed. And finally, guys, when it comes to resolving conflicts within our communities, everything should be based on the Quran and the Sunnah. We should always turn to what Allah says. Turn to what the Prophet said. Seek their guidance, when we provide insight to each other. By aligning our actions with the Quran and Sunnah, this will help us to navigate through our differences and foster better, healthy relationships with each other. But as you guys know, unfortunately, the Quran and Sunnah is not the basis for most of us. We're back to the 4 Imams. We're back to the madhabs. We're back to scholarly opinions. I get sick of hearing what the scholars said. The only time we should resort to what the scholars said is if it's not made clear by the companions and the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People don't stick to what the Prophet said anymore. They'll bypass what he said. They'll bypass what Aisha and the companions said and go straight to the 4 Imams. And then go straight to the people that came after them. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So thus, guys, practical approaches, such as what we've spoken about here, this will help us to be able to deal with the conflicts. This will help us to be able to implement allegiance with each other. And it'll also reinstate within our minds when to exercise distancing. Distancing is only if the behavior is harmful that another Muslim is exhibiting. And that Muslim has been approached about it. That Muslim has been guided as to how it's haram or how it's harmful. And only if that Muslim continues to engage in it or indulge in it, only then do we do the better. So let's see how well you guys understood what I talked about here. And by the way, this is all just to summarize that. Here's the quiz. Here's the quiz. This chapter was so important. It was so good. Let's see how well you guys can answer these questions. Question number 1. This one's easy. A mosque has been vandalized. You just received the news that a mosque in your city, one of the masajids in your city, has been vandalized. What is the first thing the other Muslims in the city should do? Is it number 1? Put themselves in the shoes of the victims of that mosque? Or is it number 2? Ask if the mosque is upon the Sunnah or not? Or is it number 3? Inquire as to whether the mosque has attendees whom you personally know. What should be the first reaction that the other Muslims have upon hearing that another mosque in their city has been vandalized? Who would like to try?
Number 1.
Say it again.
Number 1.
Okay, does everybody agree with that answer?
I agree.
I agree too.
Does anybody disagree? Okay, well, why would you say number one? Why is it not inquiring if the mosque is upon the sunnah? Why is it not asking as to whether there's somebody that goes to that mosque that you know? Why is it that the first thing you should do is put yourself in their shoes? Who can explain why?
First of all, I would empathize with them by putting myself in their shoes. And hopefully they will do an investigation. You know,
no, the question is, why would you do that? I didn't ask you what they should do. Why did you say that the first thing that you should do is put yourself in their shoes? Why did you choose that answer? Why because not the others? Go ahead.
Because we're all Muslims.
Okay, because we're all Muslims. That's a good answer. Why else? Come on.
Because those other two things don't matter. At the end of the day, we should empathize with the Muslims who were hurt in this situation.
Exactly. And why is it that those other two things shouldn't matter? Come on, guys. Y'all got to be able to, I told y'all this is a provocative quiz. Y'all have to be able to answer based on what we know about La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Come on, people.
The house of Allah first.
What does the house of Allah got to do with this? Listen to the question.
That,
a mosque has been vandalized. What is the first thing other Muslims should do? You guys said the first thing that the other Muslims in the city should do is put themselves in the shoes of those victims. So I want to know why. Why should that be the first thing we do? Go ahead. Go ahead, Norto.
Because if you don't put yourself in their shoes, you go around killing people or doing something to someone that didn't have anything to do with it.
Can y'all base y'all answers on Islam? Answer this question the way I would. Pretend that you're Layla.
Okay, I said the reason why we should put ourselves in the shoes of the other Muslims is just basically because our relationship with other Muslims is, as the Prophet said, we are building blocks of each other, each straining the other, and if one falls down, we all fall down together.
Y'all see how she answered that? You guys are going to have to train yourselves to think like Muslims, because Islam is not just a religion. It's our culture. It's our way of life. Everything begins with and ends with La ilaha illallah. Everything begins with and ends with allegiance to Allah, to the Prophet, and to this religion. So everything that you encounter in life, whenever you make a decision in life, or whenever you make a choice in life, your choices should be based on what? Your choices and decisions should be based on what Allah said it should be based on. So any answers y'all give in life about anything should have Islam like I do. You should be talking like me. Good job, Norto. Norto said the reason why she would say that the people should put themselves in the shoes of the victims is because that's what our lifestyle demands. Our lifestyle demands and teaches that if one Muslim is hurt, all the rest of us are hurt. So I'm going to put aside questions like, do I know the person personally? That doesn't matter. He's my brother. She's my sister. I'm going to put aside what their minhaj is. First of all, only Allah knows what your minhaj is. Any other answers? I would answer it another way too. Come on, I should get so many different answers. I told y'all this quiz is provocative. I'm trying to train you guys to live and think as Muslims all the time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The question, the answers on YouTube. Sister Trace said it shouldn't matter. We should practice empathy. Sakina said because they are fellow Muslims and our loyalty is to the Muslims. And Sister Jamila said it could be your masjid, so we give our help to solve the problem. And Carol said it could happen to any Muslims or any Muslims.
Okay, all of you are basically saying the same thing, that we're one nation. But can somebody think of some more to say? Pretend that you Laila Nasheeba. What would I say? What would I think? What would make, or pretend, a mosque has been vandalized, Sister Laila. Pretend you were asking me that question. What is the first thing that the Muslims should do, Laila? Put themselves in the shoes of the victims, because anybody else? What is this topic about? What is the name of this book? What have I spent the past 2 years speaking about? Trying to get y'all to understand.
Our allegiance, our solidarity. Yes. Our solidarity. Right. So,
but can y'all talk? You Muslims are going to have to learn how to think and speak. So somebody answer. Wait a minute. I want y'all to answer all these questions Islamically like a Muslim. Go ahead. Now that I've refreshed you what the class is, let's hear the answer. Why would the first thing be to put yourself in the shoes of the victims and not the other? Now let's hear it. Go ahead.
We will put ourselves in the shoes of the victims because we understand that the masjid is a focal point for us to come together as Muslims to worship, to be together in amongst each other, to remind each other of Allah, remind each other of what Allah asks of us, to basically be in the company so that we can be separate and not, swayed to do things that will take us away from that. So it's basically our house, and we have our pact, our allegiance to the other Muslims that come to the house of Allah, who come there to pray, to come there to speak and seek guidance and seek refuge and seek, the friendships of other Muslims. So I empathize with that because this is a house of Allah. I'm going there to pray. They also go there to pray. And I feel that same hurt. So that's just how I would put it.
Now that's a lot better. Y'all see the difference in her answer from the first answer she gave? You guys remember the Prophet Muhammad, he was sent to teach us good manners and good character. He was sent to change our character and our mannerisms from what they were before to that which is pleasing to Allah. Islam is a way of life. We live it. We speak it. We die upon it. Do not die. What does Allah say in the Quran? Do not die except in a state of total submission to me. How are you guys going to die in a state of submission if you ain't living it? If you're truly living Islam, every decision, every choice you make in this world is based on what Allah says it should be, what the Prophet says. Y'all got to become walking, talking people of submission instead of this little kafir talking. Oh, hi, how are you? Oh, yeah, I would do that and just keep it going. There's a reason for everything. Cause and effect. We're going to be held accountable for the choices we make. Allah is going to ask you on Day of Judgment, why didn't you help that mosque? Don't you know that when one hurts, all of us do? Great answer, Norto. Don't you know that race, color, and none of that is anything? What brings y'all together is La ilaha illallah. You're one nation. When one hurts, all hurt. If it affected that mosque, it affected us all. We're supposed to come together as one. We're about unity, about solidarity. Let's come together and as one. And once we empathize and come together as one, then we can work on a solution. Putting yourself in the shoes of the victim, that's empathizing. Why is empathy important? What makes empathy important is that's the best way that we can come up with a solution. None of y'all put that in your answer either. Why would I put myself in the shoes of the victims? Because then I'll be able to do to them what I would want someone to do to me if I were in that situation. That's empathy. Y'all see how I'm answering that? Y'all got to pull out of your heart everything you know about Allah, about his deen, when it comes to making choices in life. All right, let's see. Now that was the easy question.
Also,
go ahead.
Also, I would like to add that also while we're putting ourselves in the shoes of the other Muslims, we're also helping them, have ease in their difficulty. And as Muslims, that's what we're supposed to do. That's one of our things as Muslims helping another Muslim out. As long as we help another Muslim out in difficulty, Allah, will make our affairs easy for us in this world. And also, as long as we are helping the Muslims, Allah will also help us too.
Exactly. Y'all see how she's pulling it out of her heart. You're supposed to be a walking, talking Quran. The Prophet Muhammad, what does that hadith mean? When the people asked about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's character, Aisha radiallahu anha said he was a walking, talking a Quran. He was an example of the Quran. Your choices in life should be a reflection of that Quran. You guys got to learn how to express yourselves. Once you express yourselves, you'll think right and when you're in situations like this. This was the easy question. Boy, how y'all gonna deal with the next one? Let's look at the next one. Here we go. A meeting has been called for all the Muslims in your city to come together and develop ideas on how we can set aside our differences and unite. What should be the first approach taken and why? Is it number one? Should we focus on common goals and values? Is it number two? Should we now that we've come together, should we separate in accordance to what country we came from, what race we belong to, and our cultures? Or is it number three? Should the first approach that we take is appoint a leader? Which answer is most correct, and explain to me why?
I would say the first answer is correct because the entire point of coming together is seeing, empathizing with one another, as you said, and seeing that you're all equal, like separating each other and appointing a leader. That's all. You're putting someone on top of, like, above you, when the entire point of that meeting is to recognize that you all are here for Allah, you're all here for Jannah.
What do you guys think about her answer? Anybody got a different answer? Or what do y'all think about hers? Provocative, isn't it? Y'all didn't know the meaning of the word provocative. Look up the word meaning of provocative. What do y'all think about her answer? A meeting has been called for the Muslims in your city to come together and develop ideas on how we can finally unite. What should the first approach taken be, and why? Should it be focused on common goals and values, or should it be separate into different to groups based on our race and culture, or should it be appoint a leader? What do you guys think?
I would say in this case, it seems like there's already a leader. So I would choose focus on common goals and values by having the people get together and discuss everybody's ideas. That's focusing on what goals are here, what values you have, blah, blah, blah. But you got to have someone to lead.
Okay, you giving two answers. Anissa, pick one answer. There's not two answers. You done gave two answers.
I'll take the first one.
Okay, anybody else?
I'm sorry.
I would pick a different answer.
Go ahead.
I said I would pick a leader. First and foremost, when we look at the companions, after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed, we had, the companions. We had Abu Bakr. We had Uthman. We had the other companions that came forth, who were there, who knew the legislation, who knew how to put things together, what the people need, what their needs were, or whatnot, to go and enforce and to implement plans and how they would go forth and go forth and going about helping the Muslims. So if we go beforehand, which is fine with our faith and our values, a lot of times what ends up happening is arguing. But we need a leader we can all agree, first and foremost, that has that instilled with us and who's qualified to speak on our behalf, to implement our ideas and whatnot, to put that in place for the Muslims. That's just my general answer.
Okay, that's her answer. Who else? Go ahead.
I would my first approach would be also to what Sister John Louise said. I would appoint a leader, because as Muslims we need a person who is based on when we're picking a leader, there's also rules we follow. And
what are the rules you follow? What are the rules that you would what are the rules that you have to follow to pick a leader?
That they're on the Sunnah, that they all are following, that they stand under the banner of La ilaha illallah, that they're following, they are obeying Allah, they are obeying, understanding who the Prophet
but doesn't that fall under another category that's on the screen? Let me read Sister Nicola. Nicola said, appoint a leader because we need someone in leadership to take charge and to be a reminder what Muslims are meant to be, and to get rid of the fitna and to unite us so we can establish the goals. Okay, and follow the Sunnah. Okay, well, how can you get to a leader? I mean, is the leader the first thing? The correct answer is what Anissa and the other sister, who was the first sister? Aya and Anissa got it right, guys. You have to first come together and focus on our common goal. If we don't focus on our common goal and what our values are, how can we appoint a leader? I could just go next door and get the minister from the grand church to come be a leader. No, we have to have the leader has to be based on someone who has the same goals as us, the same values as us. So you can't even get to number 3 without first doing number 1. So a good job, Anissa and Aya. The first thing, and good job, Brother Jeffrey. Brother Jeffrey got it right on Facebook too. Good job, Jeffrey. You guys must work in these positions. Exactly. The first approach, if we're going to call for a meeting, we have to sit down together as a group and reiterate what our common goals are. Because the common goals is why we're here. Our goal is, number 1, to hold firm to Islam. Our goal is to be able to live here in this non-Muslim city and practice our religion. Our goal is for our children to be safe living here. Once we establish our common goals and our values, reinforce our values, then we say, okay, let's appoint a leader. Do y'all understand the answer? Does that make sense, Norto and Jean-Louis?
Yes. You got some answers on YouTube. Sister Halima said the first one because they're coming together and bringing ideas that would help everyone. And then Trey said common goals and values help people.
Good job.
Of different backgrounds come together, which makes for a better community and better communication.
Good job.
And understanding. Santisha, in Islam, everyone should be a leader. Trey.
Good job. You can tell Halima and Trey, you guys must work in this type of field. Brother Jeffrey too. Y'all like me, y'all work in this type of field. Isra probably would have had it right too, because she's human resource. Exactly. The first approach is we have to reiterate and establish our common goals and our values. And once we do that, and that's how you peep out who would be a good leader, because the person that can contribute the best in reinforcing our values, the people that can contribute the best in reiterating our goals, these are your leaders. And now we can choose from amongst them. Good job. Good job, Trey, Halima, Anissa, Brother Jeffrey. Good job, Aya. Okay, let's look at the next question. I told you it's going to be provocative. Next question. A person was a troublemaker in the community. He created a lot of fitna years ago. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Now, 10 years later, he comes back to the community and he publicly apologizes. And he says, what I did was wrong 10 years ago. But now I am a changed Muslim, a better Muslim. How should he be addressed by the community? What do you guys think? How should he be addressed by the community or received? Woo-hoo.
With empathy and understanding.
What does that mean?
That means I feel what he's talking about. I understand it. I listened to him, heard what he said, realized that he's sincere in what he was saying, and allowing him another chance.
Good. What do y'all think about her answer?
Agree.
I agree with her. Just like the situation with, I think it was Abu Sufyan, and they all had to forgive him as well.
Good job, Precious. Anyone else?
I agree, because only Allah knows what's in your heart. And I remember you talking about how some of the mosques today do background checks before they take Shahada. And it was discussed how that's wrong because Allah is the ultimate forgiver. So in this situation, how are we not supposed to forgive him if he's sincere and Allah has probably already forgiven him?
Exactly. Good job.
Also,
go ahead.
I'd like to add that we should open him with welcome arms. The fact that he approached the community and apologized for the things that he's did, and he's a changed person, we should accept him, because as Muslims, the only thing we can judge a person is based on their actions. And for him to say that he's repented, that's him showing that I've changed. We shouldn't do what the Prophet said. We shouldn't taunt the person or ridicule him based on the sins that he repented from. We should just welcome him.
Good job, mashallah. That one I thought y'all was gonna have a hard time with, and that one was the easiest one for y'all. Mashallah, exactly, guys. And how many of us get situations like this, where 10 years ago a brother was really a horrible person? We went through the Salafi movement here in America in the early 2000s. That Salafi movement destroyed a lot of masajids. It destroyed a lot of mosques. It tore us apart. America was ripped open. Okay? But that was back in 2000, 25 years later. A person may have been a troublemaker, may have been an instigator, but he comes back and realizes the problems he did back then. Oh, I was young, I was stupid, I was foolish, I was more fanatical, but now I'm more balanced. I apologize. He apologizes publicly. He makes lectures and videos apologizing. And do you know we still got Muslims that won't accept? They slander these people still. They slander the people still. I mean, come on. If a person's done everything that Allah requires him to do to make it right, the fact that he did it publicly, he met the criteria, then the masjid should welcome him back. Like Amina Fresno said, he should be welcomed back with open arms and given another chance, because Allah gives chances. You want Allah to give you a chance. You want Allah to remove your face from the hellfire, then why come you don't want to remove somebody else's? Good job. And this is a problem in a lot of masajids here in America. We're holding grudges about what happened 25 years ago. Different time. People get older. People change. People repent. Good job.
Exactly. I like that. I really like that answer there, because that is so true, and I've seen it and I have experienced it so many times. People do change. People change. And Allah is responsible for that, because Allah knows best. Allah knows best. And Allah is responsible for how we become. You may be a totally different person than you were 10 or 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Due to Allah, because Allah guides us.
Good job. Go ahead, Fame.
Okay, first, Santisha said, yes, forgive him. However, only Allah knows his true heart. He should be received, Sakina, he should be received back into the community. Forgiveness and sincerity based on his words, and Allah knows best. Halima, we should forgive him because he actually we're actually looking at his actions and seeing what he did wrong to the people. So we have to let go of the past, and Allah knows best. Ahmad, fact that he have publicly apologized, we should forgive him. And Jamila, we know that his conduct was light, and we feel he has a chance of a person, and we can accept this repentance, so we forgive him and give him another chance.
Good job. All of y'all did good with this question. You can see that we've all been there and experienced this. But now, here's the last question. This one might be a little tricky. What about this? Bang. An imam has abused his authority and was found guilty of stealing money from the community. And not only did he do malfeasance, but he also transgressed the limits of his authority as an imam with the female children. How should he be addressed? And he's apologized for it. He's apologized for stealing the money. He's apologized for what he did to the female children. How should he be addressed by the community now?
What I would see here, it depends on his sincerity, because he can say, I'm sorry, y'all, I didn't mean to do that. But it seems as though he really transgressed the limits when he was stealing. That's unlawful. And transgressing against children, oh my goodness. I would accept his apology, but I sure would watch him like a hawk.
Okay, what do y'all think about her answer?
I would forgive him, love him for the sake of Allah, but I would still, he's a little bit untrustworthy. I'd have to watch him.
Okay, what do y'all think about her answer?
She needs to be removed as an imam, because, like she said, you transgress the limits, and you're an imam. You know better than to be stealing no money. That's not something that's like, oh, it was an accident. I didn't mean to. I just was struggling. I'll put it back. No, you're an imam. You got caught. You should be removed. And you violated these children. You violated the community that you're responsible for. You should be removed.
Okay, anyone else? What do y'all think about her answer?
I agree, because it was some kind of hadith or something saying that if certain things you don't do, depending on what your position is. I can't remember exactly how it go, but he don't need to. I agree with them totally with Precious said. Remove.
Okay.
And he should also be warned, and the community should let people know exactly what he did. He can repent, but he didn't make restitution for it. So just by you touching on people's kids, you still have to make restitution for what you did. Apologizing is one thing, but what about the families?
I was gonna say, does anybody have to accept his apology for what he did?
No,
No,
because that's
they
their
can
property.
say, I want them deeds.
Exactly.
No, because you're abusing another person's honor.
Exactly. I didn't like Anissa's answer. Anissa, you got this one wrong. Okay, but everybody else got it. Good job, Nicola. MashaAllah, Nicola. You know, this is different. This is not the same as the other question. The other question was just about a troublemaker, a person that just used to be a troublemaker. Okay, this is different. This is number one, a person of a powerful position, an imam. Number two, he committed one of the worst sins you can do. One of the 10 commandments. He stole from his community. Stole the people's zakat. That's a horrific sin in Islam. And number three, he did another one of the 10 commandments. He violated female children. This man, he can apologize all he wants to for what he did. But in this case, if he was living in a Muslim country, what would they do to him? This is how you deal with situations like this. When you find yourself dealing with everything is based on la ilaha illallah. If he was with the Prophet Muhammad would have executed him. This man wouldn't even be living. Hold on. Because of what he did to the children. Rape. The punishment for that is capital. Yes, he would have been capital punishment for that. So this is something that's not forgivable. So in this case, he can apologize all he wants to. But he should be escorted out the door. And in this case, we do what? This is where Wal Bara comes in. Wal Bara. We have to distance him from us because some sins you can't come back from. Not only should he be distanced from us, but as Amina said, I like what you said, Mina, he should be warned every other masjid in the country, not just in the city, but every masjid in the country should be warned and told about what he's done. Because were he in an Islamic state, he wouldn't be living. He wouldn't have been left alive. So again, guys, that forgiveness, why is it that he doesn't have to be his apology does not have to be accepted? What makes his apology different from the troublemakers? Can somebody explain that?
This one involved the right of another person. Stop.
What? Anybody else?
This position is what
I mean,
not really. Why is his apology not acceptable, but the troublemakers were? It's easy.
Because he violated our rights, and we all have our rights.
What rights?
The rights. He took that person's kid. That's their property.
Okay, well,
and
okay,
their honor.
Your wording. He violated the three things. The Prophet Muhammad said there are three things that are sacred. That's what Wal Bara. Y'all got to remember that. I got to break y'all out of thinking like Christians. Christians believe we forgive and God is good, God is forgiving, and we just accept it and turn the other cheek. That is not Islam. Islam believes in qisas, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The troublemaker didn't harm nobody but himself. The troublemaker sinned against himself. But this imam took the people's zakat, which is their property. He violated the girls. That's their parents' property. As Muslims, there are 3 things that are sacred. Anyone who declares La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, their honor, their life, and their property are sacred. You violate any of those 3 things, now we are into qisas. So this man needs to be kicked out of the community. He can take his apology somewhere else because he can't give those girls back what he took from them. He can't replace it. And he cannot replace that zakat that those people gave, their zakat. So he has to bounce, hit the bricks. And then every Muslim in the country, every Islamic community in the country must be warned about him. His name put on the list. Because if he was living during the time of the prophet, he wouldn't be alive. He'd have been executed.